Hi everyone, it's Lori from McQuesten Urban Farm. Today's video, what we're going to do for you is a garden sauce. And you've heard me talk about garden sauce before, and it's just my version of really utilizing all these vegetables that are coming on us fast and furiously right now. Sometimes you just find that you've got a little bit of everything from the garden, and you've got things that you just can't use fast enough because they're ripening up, or you've got those tomatoes sitting on the fridge and more coming in from the garden. So that's my garden sauce. So I'm going to show you how to put it together. My garden sauce has got, again, these videos about using what you have for the upcoming fall and winter months. So in here, I'll take this whole tomato out because I'm going to show you that. My hands have been previously just washed. In here is about 2 baskets of tomatoes. I went down to McQuesten's market on Saturday, and it is absolutely wonderful experience. So if you haven't been there, make sure that you get there this coming Saturday. You can't get anything fresher than that. They pick it right from the field and put it right onto the table for you, and they've just got a wonderful assortment of everything nice and fresh. So you want to get there and get yourself some vegetables. So in here is the tomatoes, and there is zucchini and one of the little spaceship squashes. And I know that's not the right name for them. I think they're called panty hand squashes. They're like, they fit in your hand and they're yellow, and the farm has them right now. They're just gorgeous. They look like a spaceship. So there's a couple of those in here. Onion, garlic, and celery. I always put celery in my garden sauce because celery is just such a natural sweetener for any food. So I just kind of wanted to show you how you go through. This is tomato from the farm. So what I did was I cleaned them all, made sure my sink, or you could do them in a large bowl. There's a few different ways to skin tomatoes. Some people put them on a line tray into the oven. Some people put them into a pot and boil them on the stove. That to me is a difficult way, because then you've got to really handle hot tomatoes. These were put into a nice clean sink with some kettle water, and because they were so ripe and perfect, they didn't take long at all. So if you haven't done this before, you just want to take the center out, take your core off of your tomato and get all the way through it. And then I do the bottom, and see how your skin just slides off for you. And you want to preserve everything fresh. So when you're doing this, if you run into a spot, because vegetables don't grow perfectly, they grow with lines on them and spots on them. So we just want to make sure. Now this one is fine. There's some whiteness there, but you don't want to use anything that's not really like perfectly ripe. There's no secret to cutting these up, because they're all going to cook and stew down. So you just want to help the process a little bit by giving them a bit of a chop. If you have missed a piece of skin here or there, don't worry about that at all, because they're just going to rise to the top of the occasion in this pot when it starts to simmer, and you're going to be able to see them and skim them off. I just got to wash my hands for a sec. So again, this is about utilizing everything that we have. I had some peppers in the fridge, and you can see that this one, part of it's already in there, minus the seeds and the core. You can see that it starts to go. So again, you want to make sure you're cutting away any parts that you have doubt on. When in doubt, throw it out. But when in doubt, in this case, just cut them away. You want to preserve freshness, nothing that doesn't look right to you. So I just give these a chop like that, and then just dice them up, so you don't have to really worry about uniformity, because this is all going to cook down. And then I never waste anything on a pepper. I pop out the stem here. It's nice not to have that white membrane in there. And then again, I just take, that way you don't waste any part of any of the vegetables that you've taken time and energy to grow, or you've taken money to buy at any of the markets. So that's that. So the celery's already diced up. Like I said, that celery is just a beautiful natural sweetener for foods. The rest of the peppers in here, you can use whatever color you have. I had a few mushrooms in the fridge. I'm going to add those, nice and washed. You just want to make sure that everything you put in this has been carefully washed and sorted through, so that you've got everything, nothing but fresh ingredients here. So I just want to show you if you can see all that liquid in there. Okay, that's a lot of liquid. Tomatoes let off a lot of liquid and moisture. So that's going to cook down as we simmer our garden sauce. So we have two types, the zucchini, the squash. You could use anything else. Again, there might be things in here that your family doesn't like. Now, what do I use this for during the fall and the winter months? A lot of different things. I will put this, once it's cooked down, I will tell you how to freeze it in a bit. I will put this over chicken in the oven in the winter months. Nothing is more succulent and makes chicken fall off a bone than a fresh garden sauce done in the oven. So you have your chicken and you put a container of this over top. It's just absolutely divine. I use this sometimes on a flatbread. Put the chunky garden sauce down and then just put different varieties of cheese and put that in the oven. And I've got all these nice stewed fresh vegetables on it with a coating of cheese as an appetizer. Sometimes I've got my pureed sauce. I use ground tomatoes for that. Sometimes if I just have the tomatoes, I pull out a garden sauce so that we can add it to our pastas naturally. It's great for pasta. So I use it for a lot of different things. So seasonings, again, my hands have been washed, so I just kind of want to show you. You might have to adjust that, but for now, I'm going to start with, that's about a heaping teaspoon of my pink Himalayan salt, and a little bit less in pepper. That's about 3/4 of a teaspoon. Now, from spices, I love tomatoes and rosemary and chicken together. So I'm gonna put this beautiful sprig in that's fresh from my garden, and I'm gonna put the whole thing in just like that and just let it simmer away until all those beautiful flavors run through this pot of goodness. Nice fresh basil from the garden. Now, if this was strictly for pasta, I'd be probably adding 9 or 10 basil leaves, but I don't want it just to taste like it's meant for an Italian food, so I'm only adding 4 of those. So I'm just going to incorporate the herbs and the salt and pepper. And then I have probably a scant cup of, yes, white sugar that I'm going to add. And actually, I'm not going to add the whole thing, so that's less than 1/4. And I'm going to mix that in. I want to enjoy my sauce that night over whatever I have it over, whether I use it as a topping over top of pork tenderloin or a meatloaf. But I don't want to be reminded 4 hours later that I've had a tomato-based product. So I always use a little bit of sugar to take away that acidity. So other things that you could add to this, any vegetable really that you would enjoy in here that you've got in the fridge. If I had a little bit of red or white wine right now, that was just not enough to drink, but just enough to go in this pot, that would go in here. I don't have any of that right now, but I would add it. And if you ever have some V8 juice, again, you've just got a bit left in the bottle, That would be phenomenal to add to this. Just again, it's about using what we have and using up what we have. I'm going to put this on the stove. There's no liquid required at all for this. And I'm going to cook it low and slow. Adjust my salt and pepper seasonings. Maybe 45 minutes is after it's on the stove. Cook it. I'm probably going to cook it for a good hour and a half. And halfway through, if it still needs some help, which it probably will, I'm going to add a can of tomato paste. Because what I want to have left with is just a pot of beautiful stewed down vegetables. So when we were doing this at the farm, which we did a lot for our pasta bakes when we were having events outside or on Thursday night for dinners, quite honestly, sometimes we had to hide the vegetables from the kids. Because kids are kids, and when they see all that chunky vegetable stuff, they're like, not so much. So once this is cooked and it has, I'll take it off and I'll put it in a cold water bath right away to bring down that heat. If you want to even reduce the size of the vegetables, because you've got to remember they're really going to cook down, but if you want to puree it some more when it's cooler, you can use your wand. I call it the bowl motor. Emma Lagos used to call it that, and that's just a habit. But this really breaks things down nicely. If you don't have one of these, make sure it's totally cold. You don't want to put anything ever hot into a bullet or a blender, and then you could puree it through with that if you wanted it to be, you know, not as chunky. I'm probably going to leave mine with a bit of chunky consistency because we like it that way, and I'll show you the end result. So that is garden sauce. That's it in a nutshell. It's just meant to help us this time of year use up things as they're coming, and just another way to preserve all our beautiful harvest that we've got at our fingertips now. So I'll get this on the stove and I will show you pictures of it on the stove and the final product. Anyway, thanks for joining again, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye everybody.